And we are back here at the doctor's office. I am Dr. K. Ray Knight, here to give you proper diagnosis and prognosis and everything comics and comic book characters. Absolute Wonder Woman's giving us a little break. I kind of like that because they've been going hard for since the beginning. But this is still a very interesting, I was about to say episode. This is still very a very interesting issue. So we are on the new Absolute Wonder Woman, and the artwork has changed for this issue, but I do like it. I do like this artwork in particular. It's very interesting looking. Kind of a little realism going on in there. And she is currently in the presence of Hades. And he's talking to her, and he's like, you can't escape or leave the underworld. And she said, except I did. And he said, yeah, you did. And we're going to get to how you did that in a minute. And he's like, excuse me, guards, why the fuck does she still have her weapons? And he's like, the guard's just like, she doesn't have any. He's like, are y'all dumb? Everything that she's got on is a fucking weapon. He's like, girl, unarm yourself before you piss me off. And so of course she starts taking off, she takes off her tiara, takes off her armor and everything, and she starts, laying, and she's like, can I keep my boots on? And he's like, if it'll make you go faster, keep them fucking boots on. Somehow I feel like keeping her boots on is probably a mistake on your part, but we'll see. And so she's like, better, and my girl is baddie, of course. And he's like, don't play with me. You think that I don't know that you got fucking magic in that goddamn pouch? And he starts talking about having like a cartoon stink smell coming off her, basically. And she's like, I didn't take you for, much of the cartoons. And he was like, I see you, but I hear you, mama. Because they already know Cersei be on it. So she of course takes out her magical sword, and she has 3 lassos. And he's very, very interested in the red one, which is Nemesis. And he tells the guard, bring me that one right there. And she's like, I would advise against that, just saying. He was like, of course you would. And then of course the guard gets fucking injured, and she said, well, nobody can wield Nemesis except for me. We made that. It's a very, very powerful magical weapon, and we wouldn't have made it if anybody could just fucking use it. And he was like, she's like, and my mama have been busy. She said, yeah. He's like, so Nemesis, tell me about that. So she starts getting into the story, and I actually really like this because I wanted to know how it is that she came across this dead Pegasus that she has. So essentially, she climbed up to Mount Prometheus, and she went to go talk to Prometheus, and she uses her magical axe to break his chains. And she's very much, humble presenting, and she's, I kind of just, wanted to talk to you. I actually, I'm sorry that I couldn't free you permanently. And then she pulled one of the birds that's eating from him, comes down, and she asks it to, she's like, can you, stop eating from my friend? And of course it's talking back to her you know how Zeus is. She's like, no, I understand, but you would be great debt to me if you would just stop. And so the bird agrees, and then agrees to go tell it's the others to stop eating from Prometheus. And she's like, I was able to do that, but I don't know what other creature may come eat from you. So he's like, you are amazing, truly. You are your mother's child. Not even gonna lie. And then she, of course, gives him water to drink. It replenishes itself as he's drinking. And so, he's very, very kind to her. And she's like, my trip up here is not unselfish. He was like, what is it that you would like? So she just needs a vial of his blood. And she talks about earlier how her mother would send her, when she was younger, send her to go get weeds and things like that she suspected she threw away when she wasn't looking. And then when she got older, she started asking for more dangerous things, like things found at the bottom of the wild sea and things like that. So this one was like the major one. So he says, cut the tip of my finger. You can have my flesh, my blood, and maybe even something else. And she's like, I don't deserve, this. I'm not worthy of it. He's like, actually, it's exactly what you are worthy of, for the kindness that you have shown me today. And he's like, and I know your mom. So, we're all chill. So, she does, cut the tip of his finger off, have his flesh in her pouch, as well as the gigantic vial of blood. And the other thing is that he starts pouring his blood over to the side and makes Pegasus rise up from the dead. And she's like, this is like a major thing that you're going up against Zeus. He was like, I love having the opportunity to spit in Zeus's face, just like we all should, He's like, you climbed up here, fly back, right? So that is how she ended up getting Pegasus, which I actually love. And Hades is like, right. I'm sensing more than just Prometheus in that lasso of yours. She was like, oh yeah, the basilisk. He was like, you killed the last basilisk. She's like, yeah. He said, that goes against all that justice talk that you were saying. Mind you, when she was talking to Prometheus, he was like, did you also forget, like your mother, that I can see the future? I see that things are about to be real hard for you, and I would like to aid you. Would you please let me? Right? So he's like, that justice thing you're talking about sounds interesting, the way that you're talking about it, but you killed the last basilisk. That kind of goes against what she was like, what, look, Zeus is apparently pissed off that I'm still alive, right? And so he sent the basilisk to come kill me. It came to the Isle several times to fulfill its mission. I said, you know what, I'm sick of it, so I'm going to go to its house, right? Because it keeps coming to mine. So she goes to the basilisk lair while it's asleep. She has blinded herself and taken away her sense of smell. And she defeats and beheads the basilisk. And she's like, I hope you find peace in a different world, since she couldn't find peace in this one, right? And so he's like, and I bet you and your mother didn't waste. And she was like, a witch doesn't waste anything, of course. We use everything, conservation. And he starts, kind of just trying to condescend to her. And she's like, it's less about the basilisk and more about the bigger picture, I find, right? And so he was like, okay, so let's see how it is when you start talking about conservation when it pertains to you personally. And so, of course, he brings up her mother, who is chained, and he was like, everybody has their weaknesses, right? Yours was fairly easy to pinpoint. But the thing here is, y'all not telling us nothing new. Her mother will always be her weakness, whether her mother is Circe or Hippolyta. Her family will always be her weakness, because the Amazons are her weakness as well. She will do literally anything for her fucking people. So, love is her weakness. So Hades bringing this up, I'm just very interested to see this interaction, because it says that the next one is going to be the arena. So I'm assuming he wants her to battle in some way, shape, or form. I feel like that's going to be very interesting. And the way that she talks and presents herself, she's definitely her mother's fucking child. And he knows that. And he's just like, that tongue is sharp. Maybe I'm sharper, but I don't think that you're really hearing her, right? I don't think you're really hearing her. Because it's going to be very, very interesting here on out. Now, I do, of course, want to see how this goes because he is the only other god that she has interacted with throughout the entire series. Well, that's not true because she did interact with Hecate as well. So I like that we're getting her interaction with those gods in particular. Hades being the one that she interacts with at this point is actually hilarious. And then, of course, when she interacted with Hecate, and then when Apollo is the one who brought her down there when she was a baby. So, and then her interaction with Prometheus. So she's had 2 really positive interactions, and then she's had one interaction that she probably doesn't remember, and then this current interaction that she's having with Hades. Again, with what we know about Hades and how Hades acts, I feel like she's probably going to, whatever test it is that he's about to just like put her into, because again, the next one does say that arena, so it sounds like he wants to put her like into a fight of some sort. So whatever happens there, it'll be interesting. Now, what was talked about between me and my friend Captain Diesel was if they were going to put this absolute Justice League together. If they were, the oldest one would be Diana, and she would also probably be the one with like the most experience, and then her and Absolute Batman would be the oldest of the team, because currently Absolute Superman is 16 years old. And then Absolute Flash, which also started, if you guys saw the channel, Absolute Flash is also 16. And it's Wally West. So having Wally West and Superman be the same age, if they are running on that same timeline concurrently, like if they are all concurrent, then they do have Superman fairly younger than everybody else. And then Martian Manhunter also started. He is also older, so it would be like the 3 of them. That's a really weird kind of age tilt. But we were talking about like who could possibly be the leader of this, team in particular, especially with Joe Mullane coming in. I would 100% say that Wonder Woman would be the leader at that point. She is the one who is like the most level-headed and the most, I would say she's probably the most battle-tested. So who knows? If that's what they decide to do, I'm very interested to see that dynamic, given how she interacts with gods, and then how she changes her interactions a little to interact with the people like Trevor and Barbara and Etta Candy and her sister Gia. So we shall see. The artwork, again, a little bit of realism in there. It really looks very nice. I like that shift. It didn't ruin anything for me in terms of the story or anything like that, because sometimes when they change the art, like they did in Absolute Batman, it is too distracting for the story for me. So I do like that it never took away from the story. It actually made that shit look cleaner. I like it. But that is it for this episode of The Doctor's Office. If you haven't gotten the book, get the book. Do have another book coming out really soon too. And of course, please check the podcast. And there is another podcast coming out with myself and Captain Diesel called The Ghastly Gospels, where we are talking everything horror stories, horror nightmares, movies, books, comics, serial killers, whatever it is, we will be talking about it. So make sure that you are looking out for that as well. And I will see you guys at your next checkup.